Once again, Turkey a target for blind terror. At least 41 killed at Istanbul's Atatürk airport in a carefully staged attack blamed on ISIS. If it is confirmed that it is the Islamic State group, it's the fourth major bombing attributed to them in the past year. Why Turkey? Why now? The attack may be long planned, but they also happen to come the same week as the government has restored ties with Israel, apologized for last November's downing of a Russian fighter jet, and is now reaching out to Egypt and possibly even Syria. We'll ask why and ask what it means for a leader long accused of turning a blind eye to Sunni radicals. Today in the France 24 debate, Turkey targeted. With us from Istanbul, Barçın Yenanç, columnist for Hurriyet Daily News. Nice to see you.
Hi, good evening.
We also want to welcome Mehmet Oyçu, former Turkish diplomat, who also joins us from Istanbul. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
Emre Demir, the editor of the French language edition of Zaman, is with us here in the studio. And from Charleston, South Carolina, Michael Smith of risk consultants Kronos. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, the hashtag F24debate. This time, it's Europe's third busiest airport. Investigators see hallmarks of the attack that targeted Brussels airport. The triple suicide attack carried out on Tuesday. Laurent Berstecker has more.
Security camera footage shows the moment a blast rips through an arrival hall at Istanbul's Atatürk airport after 3 suicide bombers killed and wounded many inside.
Someone next to us got shot. Then we saw the bomb in the X-ray explode. Everyone around it died in the blast. I got up and looked through the window to see the shooting.
People were very badly injured. Like, one guy had holes in his back from shrapnel.
As emergency workers swoop down to help the wounded, amateur footage shows scared travelers inside taking shelters however they can. Police are thought to have reacted fast, firing on the attackers before they reached the security checkpoint in the arrivals hall. The bombers are said to have opened fire with Kalashnikovs before detonating their explosive devices. Turkey's prime minister has blamed the Islamic State group for the attack.
Güvenlik güçlerimizin yaptığı tespitler
Our security forces' investigation indicate that the terror attack was carried out by Daesh. I can say that there are security officials among the injured, probably foreigners too.
Atatürk is Turkey's largest airport and a major regional transport hub. All flights were cancelled in the aftermath of the attack, but air traffic resumed Wednesday morning.
Barçın Yenanç, you have to pay tribute to the resilience of people where you are in Istanbul. Our correspondent saying that people today are cleaning up, trying to get the airport back up to normal. What's the feeling where you are?
Well, the feeling is one of shock, because actually it's not the first time that obviously Turks are facing terror acts. It's been Turks are quite familiar actually with terrorist acts. But the difference from the past, and especially in the course of the past year, the frequency of the attacks, but also the high level of casualties is basically creating a shockwave in Turkey. Unfortunately, one would have expected Turks to sort of unite against these terror acts. But in the case of Turkey, the society is so much polarized along the lines of pro-government and anti-government that these types of incidents are further deepening polarization in Turkey.
All right. Before I ask you about those political reactions, Barçın, I'm seeing incredible stories. One of them from the video, it appears that one of the guards died while trying to prevent the attacker from detonating his suicide belt. It really seems as though there were big acts of bravery.
Well, actually, Atatürk Airport is one of the airports where there is a tight security measures, and we are now receiving additional details as to how this incident has happened. Actually, a civilian police officer has realized, has suspected this guy wearing a coat in this heat. So he started actually following him, and when he asked his identity card, that's when the whole incident started, and perhaps he sort of disrupted their game plan, and that's one of the police officers who was badly shot. And there is also another one who again has run after the other and tried to and shot him down. But our understanding from his accounts that he couldn't sort of make sure that the suicide bomber will not explode himself.
Michael Smith, there's no doubt in your mind that it is ISIS?
I wouldn't say that. They haven't claimed credit for it. I think that there are strong indicators that the Islamic State is responsible, however. You look at the type of attack, the materials used that have been reported variously. This does point to the Islamic State as the likely culprit. But again, there's not been an official claim of credit for that thus far.
And you heard Barchin say there is security at Atatürk Airport. We're seeing the reports there. But they had really planned for this. I understand there was a first explosion in the parking lot. Then there was a second explosion at the main terminal itself. After Brussels, people were saying, oh, nothing was planned. Here, they did have security. What does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that the Turks are aware that over the past year they have become featured prominently in Islamic State propaganda materials, which suggests that they have been, their country has been elevated in terms of priorities for terrorist operations by the Islamic State's external operations managers. I mean, all of that communication amounts to strategic communications that they're using to establish an idea of what should be expected from the group among potential supporters. And they use that expectation of operations to come to help them build support, especially when they actually make good on posturing threats, as has been the case against the Erdogan government and Turkey writ large over the past year.
Mehmet Oyçu, let me ask you, our correspondent at the airport was saying that there had been a warning 20 days ago from security services. What's your reaction to what's transpired over the past 24 hours?
Well, I'm just actually driving from the airport to my hotel in Istanbul, and the airport was on the Asian side, almost deserted, nobody around. This shows that I think one of the objectives of this terrorists accomplished, putting people away from Turkey for tourism, business, or whatever services. But in Turkish public, what I observe is that there is a huge frustration because this is the 10th attack in the past year, costing hundreds of lives and material damage as well. And not only ISIS, but also we have PKK attacking at every opportunity. And this created a state of fear in the country. And also there is a frustration that the government is not handling it very efficiently, inspiring trust in public. Therefore, there is a huge pressure now on government to take the matter more seriously and clamp down on both ISIS and PKK more effectively than it used to.
But security had been beefed up at the airport.
Well, you know, in such matters, no matter how great security you have, we saw also in Brussels, and if they want to carry out an attack, they do. What you need to do is to have good intelligence and preventive measures so that their sleeping cells or preparations could be halted in their routes rather than when they come to the airport. Because if they decide and they have the free hand to come up to the airport, you can't stop it because, you know, every year we have almost 16, 17 million people passing through the airport. So no matter how strict your security is, as also indicated today, there was a bravery of the policemen and security staff there. I don't think we can say anything about it. I think it's more bigger picture that we have to take into account. What's happening in Syria, how we deal with ISIS there, and also the situation with PKK, and also U.S. Intensifying attacks against ISIS in Iraq and Syria, the Russian involvement. So this has implications. It's not just an isolated attack in Istanbul. It's part of a bigger picture that we have to see. And I don't think that this is going to stop anywhere. I think that it's critically important that the Western, Turkish, Russian, Israeli intelligence, they should be working together to gather right intelligence and prevent it at the source rather than waiting until they come to crowded places like airports or bus stations.
Emre Demir, do you agree that it's fortuitous that this is the week where we've seen, for instance, the restoration of ties between Turkey and Israel, that Turkey has to work with all intelligence services?
Of course, Turkey needs to normalize its relations with their neighbors, and obviously there's this sense of realism which has come to the government, and they are trying to reestablish the relations with Israel, but also with Russia, also with Egypt, why not with the Syrian regime, with Assad regime. And it is actually the source of the problem. It is the real problem. Turkey is really isolated in the region, and Turkey became the really privileged target of the terrorist attacks. And I'm shocked because Istanbul Atatürk Airport is the gateway to the world for Turkish people. It's the third busiest airport in Europe, and also it creates a sense of within the Turkish population a sense of that it could be me. Everyone goes to Atatürk Airport, so it created a fear, a shock. But it's not surprising. Well, Mehmet talked about 10 bomb attacks, but if you add up the PKK and tax attacks, it makes within 1 year we had 22 bomb attacks, and more than 300 people has died in these attacks. It makes 2 attacks for months, and it's obviously there is a problem about security and the intelligence services.
All right, and we can see this is a chart showing major bombings in Turkey in the past year. Of course, the biggest one was at a peace rally ahead of that snap general election last fall, where 95 were killed in the capital, Ankara. Michael Smith, let me ask you about something that we heard Mehmet Oyçu mention there, the need to infiltrate ISIS and get better intelligence on what their next move is. How hard is that?
It's a difficult task because the Islamic State is especially focused on preventing that from occurring. They frequently put out videos that highlight the executions of alleged spies who have attempted to infiltrate them. Those spies have been from countries such as Jordan and Israel, the Palestinian territories. So it is a very tough task. They're very mindful that that is a priority among governments around the world. Meanwhile, I think that what we need to see more of, as is being basically suggested here by your other guests, is Turkey recalibrating policies in such a manner as to move away from being a de facto passive state sponsor of terrorist groups active in Syria. And those groups range from the Islamic State to Jabhat al-Nusra, which is, of course, al-Qaeda's Syria branch, and affiliated elements there. So all of this could be seen.
So wait, we've heard that accusation bandied about. We've heard that accusation that Turkey sponsors ISIS bandied about a lot. Michael Smith, what proof is there of that?
What I'm saying is passive state sponsorship, which is a different paradigm and how a government can accommodate terrorist groups. And so that may be simply leaving your borders open, so that Turkish territory has been really the primary ingress and, more importantly, egress routes to the Syrian jihad, where you see groups like the Islamic State training people for deployment through Turkey, mind you, into Europe. And we're talking about a NATO member state whose policies, or frankly an absence of policies, have increased the maneuverability on a global scale of the Islamic State in particular.
All right, we're getting one reaction on the hashtag F24debate. President Erdogan has focused too much attention on crushing the Kurds within and without, thereby allowing ISIS to grow and take root. That brings us back to something you said at the outset, Barç and Yinanç, which is the feeling that unlike what we saw in Brussels or here in Paris, there isn't this moment of national unity after the attack. You're not feeling it. Why do you say that?
Well, because unfortunately, the Turkish society is tremendously polarized. And the moment we hear a terrorist attack and people losing their lives, we see accusations thrown at each other, especially the government opponents will start accusing the government of turning a blind eye to increasing radicalism, or to have made Turkey a target of the terrorists, whereas the supporters of the government, perhaps instead of wondering about the reasons, they would just immediately start getting defensive and accusing the other side, etc. So,
and how have we seen that in the last 24 hours?
Well, precisely via the social media, via the reactions of the opposition parties themselves. Well, thank God this time the opposition parties united in coming up with a joint declaration. However, still they accuse each other, and these moments are not used as a moments to unify. But however, having said that, let me add, of course, that from the humanitarian point of view, the moment people heard that there were lots of ambulances going towards the airport, people rushed to the hospitals near the airport to make blood donations, etc. But at the political level, unfortunately, the intensity, the content of the social media messages, for instance, and even at the parliamentarian levels, even governing party members, even criticizing the opposition for what has happened, that doesn't bode well for a moment where people should unify in one message.
Marie Demir, your publication is an opposition newspaper.
Yes.
Have you guys been easing off the last 24 hours? Perhaps changing the rhetoric a little bit in the face of what we've just seen at Atatürk Airport?
Well, of course, but we have to see that there is, if you look at the accusations of the opposition parties or the dissident voices, they have they are right about some issues. If you look at
they're right, but is it appropriate to be voicing that in the wake of this?
Well, maybe in the first 24 hours it is not appropriate, but since we're talking about the 20th attack within 1 year, it's normal that people ask more questions, and there is this security issue, intelligence issue, and the foreign policy matters, which determines actually the actual security crisis. So I think that people has the right to ask questions and question the decisions of the government. Yet, and we also see that it's in a systematic way. The Turkish government tries to ban. They put a media gag, a total blackout to the media, and after they tried to slow down the internet, especially Twitter and Facebook. So there is this
All right, we're going to pick up on that when we come back. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.